Moscow 2001 was the time when Sean Penn and Jack Nicholson were seated with Vladimir Putin after the Moscow Film Festival premiere of The Pledge. The conversation is disarmingly domestic: fatherhood, a little English understood but not admitted, the KGB habit of letting others underestimate you. Penn now says with rueful clarity that he was conned. He believed there was something genuine in Putin's poise, only to watch a leader later willing to abduct thousands of Ukrainian children, smash cities, and school hatred in their stead. Going forward to Washington 2025, Donald Trump tries to broker a ceasefire. He tells audiences he often ends calls with Putin thinking that was a nice phone call, and then missiles hit Kyiv. After a few repeats, he says the talk doesn't mean anything. This is not an anti-Russian jibe from a hawk. It's the exasperation of a deal-maker who has discovered that flattery and soft promises are treated in Moscow as a tactic to buy time between salvos. And then in September 2025, in Warsaw, 19 Russian drones cross into Polish airspace during a mass strike on Ukraine. Poland activates NATO's Article 4, Dutch F-35s and Polish assets engage, and for the first time in this war, a NATO member fires in self-defense during an ongoing Russian attack on Ukraine. Poland's foreign minister, now back from Kyiv, Radek Sikorski, calls it deliberate and demands allied steel, not ambiguity. Take the triptych of these three events together and a simple thesis emerges. Duplicity is not an accident in Putin's statecraft, it is his method. He cultivates contradictory impressions in different rooms, then tests whether we will privilege atmospherics over actions. The atmospherics are cold, ice cold, because whether Putin is in the Smeg fridge or out of the Smeg fridge doesn't matter. He abandoned humanity just as he abandoned truth long ago. Penn's account matters because it captures the early grammar of that method, the careful performance of what is normal at dinner, the small linguistic concealments, the theatrical convoy whose security detail batons aside villagers as if to advertise impunity. The lesson is not about an actor and a president. It is about the soft power of personal charm routinely instrumentalized to anesthetize judgment. And Putin is charming. He does a very direct look in your eye when he greets you. These very steely blue eyes. Trump's account matters because it strips the varnish from the practical result. If you exit a call, convinced progress has been made, and then watch Kyiv burn an hour later, you are not negotiating. You are being handled. And Trump now says his patience is running out fast. He's floated additional sanctions and weapons packages while insisting he was not fooled. But the quote stands, and it is instructive in its candor. Missiles launched into Kyiv after a nice call is the purest summary of Putin's split-screen politics. Poland's week has been a real time stress test of Western learning. Warsaw rejects Moscow's alibi that the drones strayed by mistake. Well, that's a different story to the idea that they were a false flag peddled by Ukraine, isn't it? It rejects the comfortable half measure of treating this as a one-off. Instead, it triggers consultations, summons Allied air power, and pushes for a tighter air shield with Ukrainian expertise baked in. When Sikorski says the threat comes from the east, not the west, he is politely clearing the fog left by years of bad faith narratives. It is time for Poland to start manufacturing drones. It's time for cottage industries everywhere in Europe to get down to manufacturing drones. NATO's response has also shifted from posture to practice. Operation Eastern Sentry is designed to be flexible and unpredictable. Jets and sensors integrated along the eastern flank. A visible admission that hybrid pressure will be met with layered air and ground effects rather than statements alone. This is deterrence, tuned to drones, swarms, and ambiguity. It is also a quiet acknowledgement that indulgence of Putin's mixed messages has costs that are paid for in other people's towns. And what follows this? First, stop grading Putin by the eloquence of his words to Western diplomats and interlocutors. Grade him by the timing of his strikes. Grade him by what he does. Grade him by how you feel, not by what he says. When you listen to Satan, Satan says many things. Don't listen. Don't listen. Trump's complaint, nice call, incoming missiles, is not a personal slight, it's a pattern. Treat pattern as proof. Look at what he does, not what he says. And don't worry about what language he says it in. I don't think Putin really does speak very good English, but it doesn't matter. Second, retire the category error that confuses tactical pauses with strategic concessions. Russia will say a drone strayed, a unit freelanced, or a red line was misunderstood. Meanwhile, it watches whether we splinter. Poland's answer, Article 4, Allied jets in the sky, public refusals to accept the accident thesis. That is the correct calibration. The point is not bravado, it is predictability. If you cross a border with munitions, you will be engaged. Third, match narrative discipline to operational tempo. Putin's duplicity works best when he can seed multiple storylines and exploit our urge to split the difference. The remedy is dull, honest clarity. Call an incursion. Call the abduction of children a war crime. Call air defences and interceptor drones a shared public European good. Penn's moral plain speaking helps here more than a shelf of euphemisms. Fourth, resource the shield. Eastern sentry signals intent, but intent without magazines is theatre. The Allies now need sustained stocks of interceptors, persistent sensors, cross-border deconflict rules with Ukraine that make shoot-downs faster and safer. Sikorsky's Kyiv visit is not just symbolism, it is design meeting. Fifth, keep the moral argument legible. The Kremlin's game is to blur the difference between offence and defence, between invader and a neighbour, and our rhetoric should be as precise as our targeting. When missiles pound cabinet officers in Kyiv, hours after diplomatic fanfare elsewhere, say plainly what that is: contempt for talks and for civilians alike. Then align policy to that painful recognition. There is a final symmetry worth noting. In 2001, Putin let a Hollywood guest see a human face. In 2025, he let a White House guest hear a hopeful tone. Both were instruments. Both were followed by force. The corrective is not cynicism, it is mature skepticism joined by material support. Skepticism that refuses to be soothed by a well-timed phone call. Support that arrives as air defense. Sanctions that bite, and the political courage to treat Poland's sky as the front line of Europe's own security. Penn's dinner, Trump's phone logs, Sikorsky's return from Kyiv. 3 vantage points, 1 lesson. Believe the explosions, not the excuses. Then act so that the next drone that tests a border never sees the far side of it.